So we are here in Redwood National Park, and I thought I would just give a quick overview of what we experienced here, also what we experienced in Sequoia, since they are the two big tree national parks. So the first thing is that they are both amazing. I wouldn't try and answer the question which one is better or which one is more interesting. The Sequoias are the largest trees and have extremely wide diameters at the base. As you get close to them, they feel otherworldly and almost foreign. And it's a drier, sunnier environment, although it is higher altitude. I think Sequoia National Park is in like 6,000 or 7,000, some of the peaks being at 8. The redwoods are coastal redwoods, and we are basically at sea level. In fact, along the coast, you can get to the sea, and they are the tallest. And your eye can't, there are sequoias that are 245 feet tall, and there are redwoods that are 245 feet tall. So the redwoods don't always feel and look obviously taller than the sequoias, but because their base is skinnier, the shape makes them feel taller, even though some of the sequoias are just as tall. The other thing I would say is Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park, it takes some effort to get up to the park. There's not a lot of stores, or there's not a lot of anything going on near the park, and so once you're up there, you kind of feel like you're up in the mountains, kind of secluded. Whereas the redwoods here, they run like right alongside the highway, they run through towns. The national park is joined with a bunch of state parks nearby, and so you kind of feel like you're popping in and out of towns, and it doesn't feel so isolated like Sequoia does. You may like or dislike that isolation, nonetheless there's a big difference. The other thing is, we probably saw 200 sequoias in the park over 4 days, because they're not as common. Well, maybe 300, but the point is the big ones are not as common, whereas in just 2 days in the redwoods we've probably seen thousands. It's not like in Sequoia where there's a couple famous trees. These redwoods, they're just everywhere. They're just way more prevalent, and so they're not as well protected, they're not as named, and the forest here feels much more like the forest you may know from back home. It just feels bigger, whereas the feeling of Sequoia is quite foreign. A good foreign, but foreign nonetheless, because the trees are so wide and they don't have foliage until you get to the top. Whereas in the redwoods, if you don't have a sense of the scale, it kind of just looks like the woods you might have back behind your house or something like that. The Sequoia National Park is quite a bit drier. I'm only speaking from experience, having been there a few times. This is very, very, very lush. There's lots of ferns and mosses and all of those sorts of things. And so it's a wetter environment, but I would say in some ways more beautiful. Sequoia National Park, aside from the sequoia trees, is beautiful, but all of this lush, ferny stuff here is quite special and makes it feel very homey. The one thing that's odd about Redwood National Park is that it sort of has this allegiance and partnership with all of these state parks. So there's like Jedediah State Park and High Prairie or something like that, and Del Norte, where we're staying, and so it's a little confusing. You don't always know when you're in or outside the national park. In fact, you can basically drive right through it and kind of not even know it. So it feels less like a park and more like a region of interest. That being said, we would have been very happy to stay a few more days here in the redwoods. They are very majestic, well worth visiting, and unlike Sequoia, where you have the General Sherman tree and the Grant Grove tree, and those are like quote-unquote must-sees, I would say the redwoods is less central. There isn't this one center location that's just unmissable. It's just over and over and over again you see incredible trees. So I hope that helps you plan your trip a little bit, and if you visit either park, I hope you enjoy it.